everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Barricade. I am your host, Papa Dank, the one and only Papa Dank. How are you guys tonight? We're very excited tonight. We're going to be talking about the documentary, The Ballad of Gia and Frankie. I'm so excited for this. But first, let us talk about a couple of things real quickly. Let's talk about the sponsor, Pro Brothers Custom Aesthetics, for your Long Island home improvement needs. Make sure you reach out to me and I will put you in touch with them. Coming up Sunday will be Tatiana at 5 o'clock. We'll be interviewing her this Sunday at 5, as well as my good pal Anthony Gangone at 7 o'clock. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We also have the upcoming Vinny the Guido on Monday at 8 o'clock with my special guest host, which is Robbie Rebel. You don't want to miss that. As well as Wednesday, I have Brian Idol, wrestler and model now. So, and remember, check out Vlog Interaction on the YouTube channel, where we have all things about the 23-6 title, the one and only YouTube 23-6 title, right here on the Papa Dank channel. So let's go into our guest, the one and only Justin Ciardullo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Pop. I appreciate it.
All right. Introduce yourself real quick to the audience before we start.
Well, I'm the associate producer for Jambone Pictures and the film, the professional wrestling docudrama film. We also have, of course, it's a subgenre of psychological horror, LGBTQ, The Ballad of Gia and Frankie. Also in the movie, I play LGBTQ real life indie pro wrestler Gia Savitz, and definitely have a lot to talk about. It's great to be back in the pro wrestling business. Very, very delighted to be back.
All right, let's start with how you fell in love with wrestling. Let's start with that.
Okay, I fell in love with it at 3 years old. At 3 years old, I fell in love with it. I come from a very charismatic, flamboyant family. Everyone is pretty much a wrestling character. I mean, I could tell you, we had events at catering halls, Gino's Cafe, Villabro in the Bronx, and I could call family members always vying for attention on the dance floor. So we were always a bunch of great personalities, and easily because of that, you get easily attracted to the industry of professional wrestling, and it's also an industry that is more real than we think it is due to the emotion, and the raw emotion is what really turned me on. And I knew when I watched it at 3, I knew I wanted to, pursue this in some fashion in the future. All
right, let's talk about some of your wrestling heroes. I know you touched on it a little bit on the documentary, which I just watched not too long ago.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch. It's funny you mention that because it's kind of a revolving door. I guess, we started with the Hogans, the Savages, the Flairs, those guys. Right. I would say in the now for heroes, and these guys are my heroes too as well, but I would say these are the ones that I really like a lot and always will. I know this name. Well, first I'm going to say Eric Bischoff is one of my ultimate idols, Eric Bischoff. And one name another name I honorable mentions as well. But the other name that I know people really don't like very much in some ways, but you have to admit the guy made this business what it is today. The other ultimate idol of mine is Vince McMahon. So no matter what the guy does or engages himself in, he always a hero. And then honorable mentions, kind of on borderline of that, would have to be Paul Heyman. I would say maybe some of the bookers that were in WCW. I guess I did like what Dusty was doing and those guys. And I guess you could even say maybe Lawler could be an honorable mention due to his booking throughout the Mid-South and USWA and things like that. So I would say, but the peak would be Bischoff and Vince going forward.
Obviously, Bischoff led WCW and the NWO, which was beating WWE for a while.
Yeah.
It was a real threat to Vince.
Yeah, I still watch those on YouTube. Those archived videos. I love them.
That's true. You can watch them on Peacock too.
Yeah, that's true. So who knows if those going to be edited because for some little thing. Who knows?
I know they've been editing some stuff out.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is nowadays. But all right, so let's start before we get into the film. How you started to train to be a wrestler?
Well, that's also interesting too. I trained with Flesh Eater Cavachro, who had a school in Yorktown Heights, and he has a cult following. You ever heard of him? He had a tag team, the Flesh Eaters.
I have not. No.
Yeah, he trained with Jimmy Snuka, Gino Caruso, I guess a bunch of other guys too, maybe. And he had a faction in ECPW, Gino Caruso's promotion. Gino's a great guy.
I've heard it's ECPW.
Yeah, Gino's a great guy. And Cavachro was in a faction called Army of Darkness, and the leader was Lord Colt. Lord Colt is a friend of mine as well, and they had a great faction. And so Cavachro was well known for that, I believe. But he trained me, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The training was around 5 to 6 months. It wasn't fully completed. I had to take care of some things. Also, I'm going to be perfectly honest with everybody. I wasn't the most easy to deal with. Ray Morales, a.k.a. Flesh Eater Cavachro, will tell you that. So I had to take a little break, a little sabbatical, get my head together. And then finally, I started working indies and training along the way on the indie circuit. And it started with Massachusetts Underground Wrestling, ran by Booker and wrestler Timothy, the boy next door, Pittman, who's in the documentary with some clips, wrestling clips. And I had to learn the trade a little more in depth from there after having training that could have been almost finished with Flesh Eater Cavachro. But again, it was, hopefully Ray and I will, I'm sure hopefully after the documentary, he sees it and there's other things on the rise. Hopefully Ray and then as well as his assistant trainer, Joe DeSilvio, will sit down and we'll talk and just be friends. But again, it really started, the training had to be perfected with the indie underground circuit to perfect certain things. And then things just gradually, had to fall into place from there.
Now, indie wrestling for me is the heartbeat of wrestling because, you have these big promotions, WWE, AEW, Impact, but that indie is very, I feel, very intimate for a wrestling fan and more up close and in depth for a wrestling fan to interact with wrestlers.
Yeah, well, I would say they've taken over the industry and they're broadening the industry. And what I mean by that is, like, if you take a promotion like Lock Target Wrestling, an indie promotion in Jersey, what they're doing, you had Raina Black on here a few days ago. She's part of that company. I love Raina Black as a talent.
I did. Is that how you saw me?
Yeah, Raina. Raina. I found out about him through you, so I'm sorry, Raina. We'll have to have a match, you and I. I've done intergender matches before. You and I will have to have a match. I'll come back and you and I will tear it up. But anyhow, that's a conversation for another day.
Gotcha.
Like I said, so Lock Target Wrestling, they're broadening things up to a certain degree because they're bringing back that strong character development, and they're also doing mini horror movies on their YouTube channel, which is incredible. And I know David Marksman's a genius when it comes to create character development. And he came up with this faction, the Rejects, and he did a little horror movie with the Rejects. It's incredible. The cinematography is incredible. The editing, everything is just well structured and so well developed. You got that going on. Then you got guys like Tony Cini who are now developed the video game. And he said he's so focused. He said, I had to reduce my shows that I had to work because of the fact that I'm focusing on this video game. So we got the indie circuit is really what's broadening the wrestling industry, but not only with the entrepreneur stuff and the character development, but you also got it with people that are able to adjust to all types of crowds.
Right.
They could go to maybe Brooklyn, or they'll go to Greenwich, Connecticut, or they'll go to a remote town with maybe 500 people in the state of Idaho, and they'll find a way to adjust. And I see that's what I feel like is really broadening everything in the industry at this point.
That's awesome. So tell me about your first match. Let's talk about your first match you had.
That was with the boy next door, Timothy Pittman, who I just brought up to you. He's a great guy. Great guy. The promoter that owned the promotion, Eric, he would never show up, but Timothy was mostly the one who was running things as booker, and he was the wrestler and the champion. He's a great guy. He took good care of me. I had to tell him. He knew how nervous I was and how messed up I was and how the training with Ray and Joe, again, not putting the blame on them, we got screwed up. I could put the blame on myself. And, Tim just took care of me. You took care of me. And, I guess I needed to be nurtured at the time. And the match was pretty solid for what it was at that time. You could see, and there's some footage of it in the documentary. And he just really, really just took good care of me, was very compassionate, came from a good family. And then he had other guys like Zach Carter, the referee, was there. He's a well-renowned referee throughout the indie circuits, gone all over the place, Canada, maybe even overseas too, knowing him. Ethan Payne, Justin Moore. Ethan Payne was working for Bob Evans, who was from Ring of Honor. You just got some great guys in the Massachusetts area that really were really nice and compassionate, which is incredible.
And you must be going some emotions as, hey, you grew up watching this stuff, see some of your idols, and now, hey, you're in a match performing for the crowd.
Yeah.
So at the time, were you heel or a face? And your first
match? When I started, I was a baby face, and then I turned heel. Then in June 2005, it just kept going back and forth throughout the time. Mm-hmm. I will admit, what really stood out with that was the showmanship overpowered the work rate. The work rate had its moments. It was good one day, bad one, mm-hmm. or subpar. It depends what state I was in at the time.
Right.
You can tell with the promos I've done, you could tell that there's some dark things going on in my life. So that was going on, but I'm going to, go into my career with what could have maybe caused heel turns, baby face turns going back and forth, was the real life incidents that I had to deal with in the wrestling industry for people that were taking advantage of me.
Okay.
People that I trusted. One guy who I will not mention, who passed away in 2018 due to a murder-suicide, who was a legend in ECW and on the indie circuit. He's a talented guy, great on the mic. I trusted him too much in June 2006. He had a promotion called Blackballed Wrestling Organization. Mm-hmm. Trusted him too much. I looked at him as like a father figure. This guy's a father figure, it seems like to me. Another friend of mine that was working for him too, whose name I will not mention, was easily trusted him too easily too.
Right.
So there was a lot of things going on. I don't want to go into all the details. You can read about that on legacycomics.com, exactly what happened. It's all in the interview. It's a lot, so you could just go to the website and read about that. Gotcha. It was things like that. And also in the industry, I lost a lot of money. I had guys that we were supposed to respect that took my money, that kind of it was kind of like I was a little 5-year-old boy walking on the sidewalk, and the promoter was a stranger in a beat up car with a candy bar saying, "Hey, little boy, come in the car with me." It was equivalent to that, what was going on at the time. And if you see the promos I've done, preferably the NEWA ones, you could see the anger and the vengeance I had in me. But thank God for George Nadiello, the Northeastern Wrestling Alliance promoter, who in my heart is the greatest promoter I've ever had. Probably maybe one of the lost promoters that was so great. And I just hope George will return to the wrestling industry. I'm trying to secretly push him to do that because that is his passion. Mm-hmm. But George was another guy that took care of every wrestler on there. Every wrestler on there. If they had an issue, because we're high-strung athletes, he would make sure it got corrected. He would make sure, he was a great guy. And it's just guys like that I had to deal with were just so great and George gave you the creative freedom to do what you had to do. If you had a rotten day and I got screwed by these guys that we were supposed to respect, they've been all over creation, but they would cheat us. He said, "You want to do a shoot promo? You want to do a pipe bomb? Go in there and do it. Go in there and do it." So I went into New Egypt High School at NEWA Golden Dynasty. It was about in the hundreds crowd, but it was decent. They were a wild group in Ocean County, New Jersey. I went out there and I spilled my guts out. I said, "I don't give a damn right now." I lost money. I had guys play father figure, and I got treated like a 5-year-old getting manipulated by a stranger here in a car.
Right.
I said, the hell with this. I'm going out there and I'm going to do it. So it was just incredible. And NEWA was kind of like LTW, Lock Target Wrestling, which I was just mentioning that Rain is in, is kind of like the coming of NEWA. And that's why I got so hooked on it. And then, so you want to talk about a new NEWA, Lock Target Wrestling epitomizes that. And, creative freedom is very important in wrestling. And I know people get very sensitive over, oh, this guy shot this. But sometimes we have every right to just go let our hair down and speak our mind.
Right.
There are people in the industry that come out here that we're supposed to trust and put our faith in, yet they take our money. We have every right to go out there and do what we have to do. And I'm speaking for everybody that got screwed and manipulated in the past.
Right. I wish I could say I'm surprised to hear this, but I'm not, because I've been working in wrestling companies. You know, I talk to wrestlers all the time, and some I consider good friends. And I hear stories too, and it's a shame that some of you guys are taking advantage of. What would be your advice to a wrestler who feels they're being taken advantage of in a situation?
Well, I kept going back and forth, leaving, coming back. The passion's, if your passion's still there, but someone comes along and manipulates you, takes your money, do not leave. I kept going back and forth, leaving, coming back, and things sometimes were a little not working out too well.
Right.
After a while, they're not going to take you seriously. If someone screws you so badly, if you want to take a break, that's fine. Regroup. You come back and you show them that I'm going to kick everyone's ass here. And I'm going to work that crowd to the bone. I don't care if a naysayer or a detractor derails my career here. They try to derail my career. This is a dog industry. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kick ass and take names. Why? Because this is my passion. I want to reach the top of the mountain, and I'm going to do it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I wish I mean, I didn't have that experience, thank God, because my experience has been pretty positive so far.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of bad experiences here and there, but nothing like crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hey, it happens. People take advantage of people.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? All you gotta do is you just gotta have your head up high, shoulders back, just like Santana and Ortiz said. You have to walk with that, and I think you should be okay.
And keep on trying, right?
Yeah.
I hear AEW has a lot of creative freedom like that, unlike, you know, WWE, which is more scripted and stuff. Let's talk about before. I know we want to get into the film, but I'm fascinated to learn more about your wrestling. Like, have you met some of your idols? Let's start with that.
Let's see. Bischoff. I used to run big event booths. Used to have guys sign autographs. Ali Rex, Malta the Damager, Hollywood's Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. And I know Eric Bischoff was there. I didn't get to talk to him, but Eric Bischoff was there signing autographs. At the first big event I did, which was in November 2017, we had Ali Rex sign for us.
I know. I've heard of her.
She's what a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Saying hello to us.
Yeah, hello. So, did I really meet any idols and have conversations with them? I mean, Piper was one of my idols previously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still kind of is. But as I said, I already mentioned the Ultimates now. Piper and I did speak. I got his autograph when I was in high school. And he's just a great guy too, great guy too. And, these are real people, and I just love how, a lot of these guys are real people. They get real. I mean, even Mike Graham, who's no longer with us. I love Mike Graham. I watched his shoot interview, the art video. I had to take a glimpse of it. And he's so great. He talked about that boardroom meeting with the Turner corporate about the ratings being down. He said, well, let me tell you something here. Well, who owned the company here when the ratings are up? Oh, this one up, but who owns it now that our ratings are I mean, just things like reactions like that these guys give. Right. And you read a biography and you compare it to a wrestling biography. The wrestling biographies blow you away because they're so real. You read these other biographies that these other people write, politicians, a lot of it's phony. Right. You want to talk about wrestling being fake? That's more fake than what we got in wrestling. Wrestling people are real people with real lives and real passions, and if they have to speak their mind, they'll speak it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was lucky I was able to meet recently Juventud Guerrero, one of my idols growing up.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy. I was lucky. He called me a jabroni.
Oh, really?
So I got to experience that. All right. I want to talk about also traveling. How far have you gone, like, as far as traveling for promotions?
Well, it was strictly throughout the Northeast. The Northeast, specifically the Northeast area, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts.
Have you been out to Long Island?
Long Island? No, not Long Island. No, not around there. I would say most of everything was predominantly throughout New Jersey, and then other things that were outskirts. After that, PA2, I guess, was second. New Jersey was just a great state, and the fans were great. The New Jersey high school fans for NEWA were just terrific. And then even the NEWA fans, even for like, even when we went to Levittown, they really ate up the Gia Savage character. You know, they really ate up the Gia Savage character and really gave me great heel heat. And, you know, LGBTQ community today would be very offended by what they were saying to me, which I don't know if I want to go into. We could go into that later, maybe. But getting back to the traveling, when you say traveling, do you mean if I stayed in hotels or?
No, like different states. Like, how were some experiences in the different states with the different crowds?
Yeah, I would say my favorite crowds were definitely the NEWA crowds. I mean, I guess even if you put NEWA even in a different state like Kansas or something, we may get the same reaction. I think because of how George ran things. As I said, character development was very crucial, just like it is with Lock Target Wrestling. The character development is very crucial. Was very crucial to George Nadiello.
Right.
You know, so that was a great crowd. You know, New York got a little crazy with things.
We get crazy out in New York.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, I'm in Connecticut now, and I can tell you I miss New York so much. I'm in Connecticut. I'm it's like nice and calm and peaceful now. I feel like I'm sunbathing all the time.
You got to check out some of the Long Island promotions.
Yeah, I know New York, the Wrestling Connection is pretty
NYWC. Cool. That's Mike Mondo teaches there.
Yeah, I know you had him on the show. Okay,
I did. Yeah. We got the one I work out of when I do my vlog and stuff and some of my interviews. Victory Pro Wrestling. It's been around too.
Yeah.
And obviously, everybody I think knows Creator Pro. Who doesn't know about Creator Pro nowadays?
Brian Myers
and Pat Buck.
Yeah.
And a lot of the AEW talent coming from Creator Pro.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's jump into how did this come about? Like, where was this idea? Hey, I could do a documentary film. Like, how did that start for you?
Well, John Victor Ambrose proposed it to me. He proposed it to me, and he was contacting me five times back and forth. I was kind of hesitant to take it. I was working on trying to work on a film and a film brand, wrestling brand down in Austin, Texas, with my friend Diane Vasquez Revillo, who's a filmmaker down in Texas. I just did Barrio Mansions with her not too long ago, which was accepted by some film festivals. We were trying to build a business down there together, but we had to take care of our own lives. So when I was about to come back to New York, I was in Austin, an extended stay, trying to move down there. But just emailed John and said, you know, coming back to New York now, you know, let's start working on this. Let's do this, you know. But yeah, it was just very, you know, it was an ambivalent thing at the time. But he was not going by John at the time. He was going by a name Jack Ezor from England. He went by an alias name to surprise me because we went to grammar school. We grew up in grammar school. We know each other since kindergarten.
Oh,
so
wow.
He played this little thing, and then he even did Zoom meetings with me. So he did a Zoom meeting with me, or somebody meeting with me. He only showed a picture, no video, and he had an English accent. Hello, and he was going like, "Hello, how are you?" I mean, like, I'm telling my Aunt Ray and Uncle Franco, and I'm like, you know, this is neat. I got a guy from England. He's contacting me all the way from England. Oh my God, great. He even said, John, as Jack Hezorb, said that he had a place, I don't know, some bungalow or condo in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So me being spiritual and karma, believing in karma, I said, you know, I'm going to try to get a job. Maybe I'll try to get a job in Philly, move down there, get a job in Philly. So I had an interview planned in Philly. I go to the interview. I just spent $25 on parking for this interview. You know, the interview in Philly said, "Oh, we don't have you on the schedule." I said, "What do you mean you don't have a schedule? You put me on like a few days ago. What do you mean?" So I'm like, they were like, you know, so I'm like saying, okay, there's something really weird about this. The interview didn't happen because usually when I say that spiritually, that means like there's something not right here. Lo and behold, John comes out of the woodwork and surprises me. You know, so John's been very, very good to work with. He needs to reimburse me for that $25 parking fee.
I'm sure the check's in the mail.
It's going to be an outstanding invoice soon. It's been since October 2019, John.
All right, so you're putting this doc Papa D, always the best interviews. Thank you, JJ. You're playing this documentary in the beginning stages. So how did it progress from that?
It was a struggle. It was a struggle. I mean, mainly because I was just like, here I am back doing this again. And I'm like, I got another chance, got another opportunity to do this again. I feel like I'm healthier.
Right.
You know, so it was, I had doubts that anything would work. There's times I said, oh God, maybe I made a mistake. I should have stayed in Austin. I should have stayed in Austin, Texas. I shouldn't have come back here. Mm-hmm. This was a mistake. And this is not blaming John. I'm not blaming John or anything. Has nothing to do with John. Right. It has to do with the fact that in life, we have to learn how to, here's the way I see it. And people, I know this may be offensive to people that don't believe in God, but I want to say it right off the bat here. My belief is that God gives us these things where he wants us to go low because he sees better potential in us. Mm-hmm. So even if we're struggling and we're not winning for like 6 months or something, whatever it is, it's like, it's not the end of the world. If the passion is still there, you could do the impossible, the inevitable, but you have to go low sometimes to think what else is. It's like with WCW, WWE, Monday Night War. Right. Vince was down, right? Almost out. What did he had to come up with another solution to get back his audience. And it's the same thing. So there were times. So again, I'm not blaming John for this. I'm doing this on myself, not realizing. And John knew this because John's an attorney, an entertainment lawyer. He's had a lot of experience, more than me. So and so he knows the ups and downs. Me, I was getting too irritable. Here I am back doing this again. I was getting a little irritable. John had to kind of trim me down a bit and said, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong about this. I think we got this." Right. So. It was a struggle to see because I'm the type of guy that wants to see numbers going up. I want these numbers to be risen. I want this to go up on that. Oh, I'm seeing this low. I don't like that. It's kind of like that attitude that you see ratings and people are like, oh my God, the ratings are bad. And you got people like Mike Graham even said when he was in WCW, he said, please send me the minute by minute. I want to see who's drawing and who's not for our Monday night. I learned how to do that stuff by watching Mike Graham, hearing how Vince did his things, Bischoff, watching how those guys did with numbers. I took that training. That wasn't college training. It was just training I learned from these guys and took it to the movie. And I saw these numbers here. And I used to say, John, we got to bring those numbers up. And I used to get I look like a freak. But he had to tell me, no, it's going to be fine. You got to just take it easy. So we are doing much better with it. It's been, it has been incredible. I'm very satisfied. I'm now full-time, basically working for myself now because of this, making the sacrifice because, and that's it. As I said, I told a friend, I said, I don't care if I'm down to a nickel in my pocket. Like Ricky Stark said, I'm down to a nickel in my pocket, a mattress. I don't care. We're going to still keep working hard. And as I said, I'm not giving up this time. And John has my word on that for sure.
Okay. Now, filming the documentary, how was that experience like?
Well, John put together the first draft. He showed me the first draft, and then I had to, of course, give my input, tell him maybe add this in, add that in. I even had to do put in like the time code because I was an intern at NBC television in Manhattan. So they told me about the logging footage time code to put the line in. So I learned that when I was an intern. I was at College for Rochelle. So I did all that. I had to show them when we fix this, shorten this up, things like that. So it was mostly all archive footage we put together, pretty much, and some unreleased footage. That's basically what it is. And we had to just narrow it down and put that all together. But the flow of it is like you're at an indie wrestling show. It's not like your standard documentary, like 360. No offense, that was a great movie, don't get me wrong. What I'm trying to say is that we call this a groundbreaking, innovative, cutting-edge documentary because we make it like you're sitting at an indie show to the point where we didn't want to call Tubi to try to sign a contract with Tubi because we were afraid commercials are going to be in Tubi. So if a fan is like this at the screen, commercial comes in for tampons, then we're because they show these weird wacky commercials on TV, we like with independent brands, whatever. and then then they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go go get a tuna sandwich now, because now it's commercial now. And
You
then
know what?
yeah.
I felt like I was at an indie show when I was watching it. I really did.
Yeah, it's like you're at an indie show, and John was just a genius when he came and put it together. And what it is also takes you back to the kind of like the old days of wrestling because of the raw emotion and the character development. And we also have to understand that the people that held it together, we can't just say it was me and the footage of Frankie Firestarter. We also have to understand that the independent circuit, which is on there, the indie stars from that time, they held that thing together. If you didn't have them even in there, no one would even want to order it on Vimeo on demand. You would watch it. You would say, "This is garbage. What else can you give me?" But it was because the indie talent that you saw on there that really held. They were the glue. Right. They were the mold that held it together. Right. So if it weren't for them, the movie to me would be maybe not much of anything. But that's why you have to give the hats off to the indie circuit and how hard those guys work. And I know people doubt them as this and that. Oh, they whatever. No, these guys are hardworking individuals, and these guys are multifaceted, as we're seeing today. These guys held the Ballad of Gene and Frankie together, and if it weren't for the independent circuit domestically in America, this film would be nothing.
I see these guys and gals work their asses off at these indie shows, and sometimes there's, you've been there. Sometimes there's huge crowds, and sometimes there's not so many huge crowds. But they're always giving their 110%.
Exactly.
You're right. That's kind of like you said, the glue of the documentary, and the glue of any indie promotion is the passion that the indie wrestlers have.
Exactly. And even when I went to Lock Target Wrestling, the way Raina Black did her thing, I mean, I thought a riot was going to start. I thought because there was a young woman who had kids, a young mother, other kids. Right. Raina Black was really acting like a high school bully, and that you find in the locker room that you don't want, that steals your lunch money. And the young woman, I was sitting in my chair and I'm turning over here, and the young woman looked like she was going to really lay out Raina Black. I thought the cops were going to come, and I had to keep looking at the young mother to see, is she going to lay this one? It was just incredible, incredible with the passion on there. Yeah.
Have you ever drawn that type of heat from a fan?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh my God, what, are they going to be outside for me or something?
Well, that also is going to lead to Frankie Firestarter. But first, I'm going to get into the draw and the heat. Yeah. Well, I was with the character G. Savitz was highly controversial, and a lot of promoters didn't want to really book it. They thought I was a guy that escaped out of a mental hospital. And so, and what happened is that I did have a 10-year-old boy call me the 6-letter word. I don't want to say that on the air. It's an LGBT vulgar word. He was 10 years old, 10-year-old boy. And I even had people at NEWA frostbitten when I did an intergender match with Vane, who's in the comic book, by the way. We'll get into that later. Right. The intergender match, we had a promo, an interview that I did with NEWA announcer Rob Connor, and we used to shoot our interviews for the next show at the previous show. So we put it on the screen, and you had a fan say, "Hey, go screw your boyfriend," said to me, right out the open. And my fiance at the time, Jennifer, was in the audience, and she was appalled. She couldn't believe that Justin has to get this treatment like this.
Yeah, it's really like, it's sad that you got some little 10-year-old sprouting all this hate.
This is in the Blackballed wrestling organization show. Yeah, they had it over there.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Kids are the worst fans. They don't hold back. Yeah, Angel, that's true.
Thank you, Angel. But Frankie Firestarter, the villain in the Ballad, we're going to get into that. It's kind of similar to Heel Heat. As my career was, as I was doing my shows, Frankie saw the benevolence in me at the time, the fragility, the vulnerability in me, and called into a radio show. And that's how he entered my life. And I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but I'm going to give you how things started with him. And as you see in the documentary, it gets very, very real, very, very psychological. That's where the psychological horror subgenre is intertwined. I just did a horror podcast before I came on here. So we have the horror element in there because of Frankie Firestarter. The guy was this real sick sociopath. And this is what I had to deal with in professional wrestling. But on the contrary, I also had fun with it. I embraced it because at the time, and I feel like now this is coming back, as I said, with like a promotion like Lock Target Wrestling and other indies,
Mm-hmm.
Character development is coming back. Real storyline structure is coming back, I see. And at the time, I felt the wrestling business was more like a bunch of glorified UFC fighters. No offense. Because while the guys were stellar workers, I saw guys just coming out in tights, didn't have a lot of charisma, working these great matches. But the match to me would be meaningless to me if I don't see a great rivalry like we had with Snuka and Piper. The build up to that. And you get that anticipation before that. And your heart is racing. With these other matches I was seeing, I didn't get that. So I got this Frankie Firestar on my ass. And it reminds me of Sting Black Scorpion, where Black Scorpion was coming after Sting. And I was having fun. And then my friends were like, you know, aren't you afraid he's going to kill you? You know? And it got even so real that I had a show booked, Elite Generation Wrestling, and they may have canceled the show because of Frankie Firestar, because I challenged Frankie Firestar to come into the Tamaqua, Pennsylvania Salvation Army parking lot.
Really?
I did that, which was stupid of me to do that, but I got so maybe disgusted with how there was a lack of real old school quality to professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's turn it up a notch and let's get passionate. Let's get real as it gets. But it's possible that EGW was owned by Draven Blaze. You heard of Draven Blaze?
I haven't.
Draven Blaze. His father owned the promotion, Draven Blaze, and it's possible that the father canceled the show because of Frankie Firestar. You know, it got really real. And honestly, would I do that today? No, I wouldn't. I mean, I was very impulsive back then. Would I do that? No, I would not. If this guy came at me today, it'd probably be a different story. I'm a wise man now.
Right.
I was so silly and a little stupid and impulsive that I went out of I jumped the gun and did something like that and called them out on a podcast.
I love how there were wrestling quotes sprinkled throughout the documentary.
Yeah, you know, we have to. Yeah, we want to do that to acknowledge the people, the business of all talents, whether you have a wrestler, a referee, or big names, indie circuit, whatever, and acknowledge that they paved the way for us to do whatever we have to do in the industry, whether we're, you know, doing the creative end or doing documentaries, doing films or whatever, and show that a lot of these quotes are very motivating and inspiring for us.
Right.
You know, I even take these quotes to, you know, I would even take these quotes to other jobs. You know, and finally, one of my bosses, naturally beautiful woman, had to finally bring me down to my knees recently.
It's pretty funny because at my job where I work for Walmart. I'm a manager there. In one of my stores I was in, they wanted us to put up quotes. So I put like a generic quote. I wasn't even thinking about wrestling. And one of the other managers, he puts the quote. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you the quote in a minute. I'm like, why the hell didn't I think of that? And I'm the big podcaster, interviewer, and I didn't even think about that. But he put up, to be the man, you got to beat the man, Ric Flair, as his quote.
You know, it is, Papa. You know, wrestling brings out a lot. You know, you think you know a person real well, but you tell them wrestling. And I'm going to bring up this manager I just had. I just brought up to you. I'm going to bring her up for a second here. Yes. Now, she's a incredible woman. The fact that she brought me down to my knees says a lot that this woman's incredible.
Angel knows.
Okay. So this boss, when I first met her, you would think you're dealing with Marion Librarian from The Music Man.
Right.
Not an insult. I'm just saying that's complimenting her. What I mean by that is that she was very deep in detail. Right. Before she makes her final decision, she has to hear two sides of the story. Mm-hmm. All things like that. And I pretty much idolized her, looked up to her. We're close in age. I looked up to her, idolized her, because I'm like, okay, this woman's molding me into something. So I used to bring my wrestling stuff with the documentary into the job, and it got to me. I was walking with my head up high, shoulders back. And I remember I would see her in the office, and I would see how she was getting very frightened. And I said to myself, I went back to my house and I said, you know something? You are not going to frighten her again. That's a beautiful, sweet woman. You are not going to and I didn't mean to frighten her, but when you get that wrestling stuff in your head and that's really your main thing, and you're in this job here doing it for a little extra stuff, you don't think sometimes. But I said, so she did that. But here's what I brought wrestling to her one time. Told her about my comic book, told her about the film. Uh-huh. And Marion Librarian went away. And she was throwing fists around. She was talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, I had a friend that was a fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Then she got a little she turned into a female version of John Moxley. I'm like, so first I'm saying to myself. So then I'm like saying to myself, okay, like okay, we got manager. I know we have a manager here. Who brought the college intern here? Who's the college intern that just brought in? Because I don't know this person right now.
It's crazy how you just talk about wrestling and then what you do and even what I do. And then people you wouldn't realize that are into it, they just like, oh, did you see this? Or do you watch this? Or do you do this? Or do that? And you're like surprised. I was involved and I'm going to tell you a quick story. I was involved in a case, right? As a manager, I have to sit in and do depositions sometimes for accidents. So I'm sitting there, they're asking me all these questions. What's your name? And I say my name, blah, blah. They're like, do you have any other aliases? And I'm like sitting there, I'm like thinking, I'm like, first I was like, what the heck is this lawyer talking about? And then I was like, yeah, I have an alias. I'm Papa Dank. And they're like, well, what does Papa Dank do? And I'm like, Papa Dank interviews independent wrestlers from all over the Northeast. And he just goes, I know. And you know what? I like your stuff. Just threw me for a loop. I mean, here's this high fancy lawyer watching my stuff, complimenting me on my work as on my passion, because I'm passionate about wrestling. It's so crazy.
I know we have so many even Roxy said this too. We have so many closeted fans out there, closeted wrestling fans that and I know what it is too. You have stuffy parents. Sometimes we have stuffy parents, and my mother and father did this to me too. We have stuffy parents that will say, okay, I don't want you watching that because it's going to cause you to have psychological damage.
Right.
You know what wrestling does? It makes us stronger. It makes us tougher. There's worse things in life that give us more psychological damage.
Absolutely.
To me, one of these, like, I don't know, nerdy scientist types. I don't want you watching that. But here's the thing, what I want to mention to you. See, with professional wrestling, it's the greatest form of therapy. The greatest form of therapy. I would say, these psychologists, they could help us to a certain degree, but when you turn on wrestling, when you see the motivation, I know AEW has a lot of guys that are really really get you going to make you feel tougher. MJF, John Moxley, you name it.
A lot of guys.
Wrestling, you feel, oh God, I feel cleansed.
Ricky Starks.
And that's what it does to us. Forget about the psychologists. Leave them leave those guys backwards and go watch wrestling, and you'll feel much better at the end of the day.
What do you think of? Before we continue on the documentary, what do you think of some of the guys of AEW? Like, who do you go and watch and be like, this person's going to be a star? And I'm not saying MJF. I mean, someone else from the roster over there.
I would say Ricky Starks, a fellow Austin, Texas guy.
That guy has so much charisma. He's not even funny.
He's great. I would say Ricky Starks is great. I would say I want to go with guys mostly that give you what epitomizes a professional wrestler is the one that can work, the one that has the charisma, the one that's good on the mic. You have to have all three of those to mold it into one great character. I would say Ricky Starks has great potential. He has it all. I'm trying to think who else I would say in AEW that has the potential to really make it big. I do like the Acclaimed. I think the Acclaimed are great. They got it. They got a great character. Bowens and Caster. They got a great situation. They do it all. They can work the crowd. They can do it all. They're going to probably be the greatest tag team, one of the greatest of all time. And I'm sure when they go solo, they're going to be great too. Those guys are going to be great. I also see some guys on AEW Dark Elevation too that look like they could, from time to time, they look like they got something. I do like Arn Anderson's son a bit, Brock Anderson. I do like him. I guess I still like that rugged, tough, old school
guy.
I love it. I like Brock Anderson. The other guys I think are great are 2.0.
Oh, 2.0. Oh my God.
Especially Matt Menard.
Mac Daddy.
I like them because they have that old school type thing where they're great on the mic. They got the charisma. Those guys are great. Those guys. Those guys need to be put out there a little more.
And I can't believe they were let go of NXT. that's the crazy part.
So I would say all in all, anyone in AEW that has those three components that could just really go to the mountain. You have to have the three components. Those guys are going to be the star. My belief on anyone in the wrestling business that just does one thing. And I wasn't perfect either. There was things I couldn't do. So I'm not going to put myself in this category.
Mhm.
I want to tell them about the other guys in there that had all the three components going on. When you have all those three components, you're going to do, especially today, it's very crucial. And you're going to do it. That's it.
Right. What about as far as females in AEW?
Jamie Hayter, I think, is great. Jamie Hayter's great.
We're on the same page. I'm a huge Hayter fan. I'm a Hayter
great.
fan since I first saw her there.
And she's a beauty. Yeah,
I thought she was good then, and now she's like taking it higher.
Yeah. Other women in there, I would say, I do like, it's kind of tough with the women's division, AEW. I just feel like it could be a little better. I think it's getting a little better, but I feel like it could be better. I didn't like the way the storyline was with the mystery partner.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really downer for a lot of us.
It was. Because they tease, obviously, everybody knows who they tease, Mercedes.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get her. That's the big tease was Mercedes is coming. And they just couldn't do it. For whatever her reasons are, probably she doesn't want the commitment from what is being said.
Yeah, so it's just that's a little hard situation. But
Tammy says John Moxley, Bryan Anderson, Tony Storm.
Well, I would say that's that's that with that. Yeah. So
Serena says Ricky Starks, Ethan Page, or Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston, fellow Yonkers boy, Yonkers, New York boy. Yeah.
He's another one. Great on the mic.
He's great too. Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right, let's go back to the documentary.
Ooh.
Next up for you is the comic. I'm a big comic guy too. So let's talk about how the comic came along.
Well, the comic was we needed another promotional tool because John and I came up with our initial core options. Mm-hmm. And those initial core options, we exhausted all those options. So then that was leading to genuine concern. So either we quit this thing, deep six it, or we come up with another promotional tool. So I found out about Patrick Hickey Jr. from Legacy Comics on News 12 Westchester in New York. Saw his video, also saw championship belts, replicas on the wall. Always a wrestling. Okay. So I got in touch with Patrick and got in touch with him. And then, we talked things over. He said, I have a comic book already, The Job, which continues to be a success with Legacy Comics. Definitely get The Job. It still continues to be successful. Mm-hmm. And he said, I would love to have another wrestling comic. Let's do the Ballad of G and Frankie comic book. Let's do it. He agreed to it. He said, so I need you and John to write a script. So we had to learn how to write a comic book script. We never wrote comic book scripts before. Right. I write screenplays. John puts together, formats, other things like that. But we never, ever wrote a comic book script together. So finally, we learned the trade. Patrick had to say, no, do it this way. And we came up with a great story, and then Patrick then put his stuff in there too. So then we had a great story in the end. With a lot of and with the Ballad of G and Frankie comic book, it has a lot of passion in it, and it's not only about professional wrestling; it's also about how we have to handle the real world, no matter what passions or pride we have in us. If our dream is to, climb Mount Everest, hopefully the comic book will motivate you in that way. It's very, very motivating. It's inspiring. It has a lot of stuff. And Patrick mentioned this. It's a lot of stuff in there. It's M. Night Shyamalan movie, Karate Kid in there. A lot of stuff is in there. So it's more than just professional wrestling. It's a broad spectrum. And, we're trying to prove that we feel like professional wrestling could be broad and that we could reach new fans and lapsed fans, by finding ways that it's kind of incorporating their interest in it to a certain extent. And our target demographic is Generation Z to millennials. That's the most, and they're in a crucial state right now. And when you're thinking about that, they need a lot of inspiration, a lot of motivation. So we said we have to, just like the documentary, we have to target towards them and make sure we get them. And we are getting gamers in that demographic on Instagram and things like that. that are liking what we're posting and things like that. And I love how tough these gamers are. We have some women, young women that are following the Ballad page, and they're like, they're so mature and they're so tough about life, and they have a good head on their shoulders, and they're gonna go the extra mile in whatever they do. And I take a lot of pride in that. So I definitely see the women in general doing amazing things now, because I know they had a lot of limitations due, because there was that stereotype years ago. They're doing great things. So the gamers are just reacting well to the post. So the comic book is, as I said, very realistic. It is professional wrestling, proves that wrestling is real in a lot of ways. And we have the pre-order out is now. You could pre-order your copies, physical and digital, and we have a default cover as well as a variant cover. The variant cover is a Valentin Quinones tribute from the Wolverine, and it's also NEWA inspired too, because we showed the Gia look from NEWA Golden Dynasty when I made my debut. So, so it's just that so the pre-order is up right now. Go out there on legacycomics.com and pre-order, the Ballad Gene Frankie comic book, physical or digital. And of course, well, I guess I'll make sure that you post that in the body after the interview is over as well. I'll give you the links.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I would like to get a copy myself. Sweet. Hopefully, I get you to sign it for me.
I think that would something to plan.
Is there any talks about doing a follow-up, a sequel, or a different type of wrestling project?
We have other wrestling projects in the works. There is we do know of people that we could get. There is someone that is lurking in the shadows right now that we feel, at least I know, could definitely get the job done in the business. But I'm not going to say if it's a he or a she, but they are lurking in the shadows somewhere. And I know especially that this person could be a definitely great addition to the wrestling business. This person hasn't been approached yet. I know this person. I haven't seen this person in a while. This person was showing signs of that interest, that passion in them. They were this person is very passionate about what they do in general. However, this person left their true embodiment behind them 4 years ago. So I'm hoping that this person finally realizes where they came from, who they are, and maybe they will be good to go here. But besides that, we got other stuff working on too. So we got multiple wrestling things that are in the works that we're discussing. We're just going to keep on, catering to those fans. Right. That's really our passion overall.
Right. Any merch you got out there for T-shirts?
Besides the comic book, not right now, but we are talking about doing T-shirts, and we have been talking about that. We had to talk about some designs. I was doodling around with designs. John was also doodling around with some ideas too. That's something we've been talking about. So there's a lot of options we've been, pondering about, discussing. Yes.
How about a Gia Savage micro brawler? Do you know what that is? Micro brawler. Micro brawler.
A micro brawler, of course. I think about something to perm my hair or something.
No.
Okay. Micro brawler. A custom figure company, maybe the viable option for that. That's something to maybe think about here.
I collect micro brawlers, so
yeah.
And Funko Pops.
Okay.
That's a big cool. Funko Pop guy. Yeah. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Do you collect anything?
Any wrestling merchandise?
Yeah.
Well, I have some stuff on eBay. I sold a bunch of rare stuff already. I still got some rare Sting cards from the WCW 92 magazine.
Okay.
I still got that on there. A lot of the rare stuff sold, but I got trading cards up there, T-shirts. So if you go to my eBay store, which is Wrestling Central, that's my eBay store on eBay. You'll see some wrestling merchandise as well as sports memorabilia on there as well.
Okay. I think my prize is I have a Freddie Funko dressed up as Sting. Not the actual Sting Funko, but Freddie as Sting.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's going for, I believe, $800. I saw somebody trying to sell one. before.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I would hope that maybe, when you announce your next project, you would give me the scoop in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely will. Yeah. I mean, just it's I think it's when it comes down to that project, it's about making new talent, building new talent, molding them into something. And definitely that's what it's about, really. It's for the future. Yeah, it's not the future
The
though.
generation.
Yeah.
Any indie talent that you feel that's out there that can get to that next level that you've seen recently?
I would say, Raina Black. You'd be interviewed Riley Crow, Eris
Mm.
Spiral.
I know Eris.
Eris Spiral. Yeah, Eris Spiral.
I, I know her husband too, Lawrence Spiral.
Yeah, Lawrence. Yeah, Lawrence too has a great character. I saw him too. He's great too. Lawrence is great too.
Yes.
Philly Mike Swanson, I think, has something good. Tony Cini has something. He has an interesting character too. I love this promo from the Boston airport. Watch that.
Right.
Any one of the guys, I would say. I would say a lot of the other guys. Stepdads are interesting. That tag team, the Stepdads.
No, I haven't heard from them.
Yeah, they're an interesting. They're following us on the Instagram page. They're an interesting tag team. They come out to Full House, the Full House TV show
The
theme.
Full House theme.
They into a rock thing, and
Right.
so the fans will say they're heels. Last night when I was at that show, and they'll say, you have a dad bod. It's like, it's not a dad bod. This is a father figure.
Right.
So I mean, they would, they have an interesting act. Those guys I see they have something because they have anyone that has a strong character.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that has a strong character has a great work rate. Able to work a crowd, almost cause a riot like what Raina Black did. They got something that could draw. Yeah.
It was a pleasure talking to her. Let me tell you.
Yeah, she seems cool.
Have you ever?
Maybe we'll tangle up, her and I. I love wrestling Vane, and she does a match on YouTube where I was I'm doing a promo against her, and she hit me in the head with a cookie sheet. But yeah, maybe if I'm, maybe after the movie stuff starts winding down, I'll go back to training, and maybe Raina Black and I will have an intergender match.
There you go, Raina. You hear that,
Raina,
right?
Raina, I'm calling out your name, Raina.
He's calling you out, Raina. She's ready.
I'm sure she is. I bet but she's a tough customer.
She's like, I'm ready for anything. Let's go.
She's a tough customer.
Any match.
Whatever type of match you want, Raina, I'm for it. Whatever type of thumbtacks, like you name it, thumbtacks, do it. We'll do it. Thumbtacks too.
That's awesome. So tell everybody where they can find the Ballad of G and Frankie.
Well, Ballad of G and Frankie, professional wrestling's groundbreaking documentary is available for rental, $3.99, and purchase, download for $9.99 on Vimeo on demand, which is vimeo.com/ondemand/GiaFrankieDoc. You can also find the link to that on GiaFrankie.com, which is our official website. And you can find it on our Instagram page as well. And also the website is on our other social media websites as well. Also, you could view our trailers on YouTube as well as other social media. Now, TikTok, go to TikTok if you want to see scenes from the film. We have a handful of scenes from the film on TikTok, which is tiktok.com/@GiaFrankieDoc. If you still are ambivalent, you watch the trailer, it's like, I'm not sure if I want to watch this. Okay, watch some of the scenes on the TikTok page, and then you can decide there if you want to go to the Vimeo on demand page. But definitely check out TikTok for the short scenes on there.
Any other platforms can we get this film coming up?
We are we have thought about other streaming services. We thought about other distributors.
Somebody wants to be in one of your films.
Hey, Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan, we'll talk. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. We have talked about that, throughout the year. We have discussed that. We'll see what else we can find there, distributors and everything. That's still something we're considering, as well as, and we also were given some feedback about, getting involved in physical media as well. Which that is something we should do, especially when we have access to these videotape libraries.
Right.
which we have to discuss more with these videotape live, the NEWA promoter I have to talk to, and then WTF Nelson Torres I would have to talk to more in depth if we go into a physical copy, because there's still demand for that, especially with horror fans. Horror people love,
Right.
but then there's even wrestling fans that will still ask, if they go to the big event, for example.
Which is coming up in March.
Yeah, because you and I, you did those, I did those.
I did.
People will,
I'm trying to do this one too. It's a horror one. It's horror themed.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So even big event fans will say, "Oh, well, let's say they missed the big event." They'll say, and this happened to me. They say, "Oh, were there any VHSs?" So physical stuff is still in demand. So I think
absolutely.
it's something, we're going to definitely look into as well. There's a lot of options to look into. It's a lot of stuff to look into that we have to really discuss further.
Absolutely. There's another event coming up in PA, Battleground.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you heard of them.
I did. Yeah, I have heard of them. Okay. Yeah,
that's another big promotion.
Okay, yeah, so. No, I haven't been to any of their shows. I mean, as I said, I was at LTW. I was at NEW in Waterbury, Connecticut. So there's a lot of interesting indie promotions coming up out of the woodwork. Warriors of Wrestling. I remember I had to shoot promotional footage for Ali Rex over there for the big event, and Warriors of Wrestling is doing really good right now. That's a great company.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out. I've heard of them.
Yeah, we got a guy following us on the Gia and Frankie Instagram page, Gen C Club. They got merchandise and things like those. They're incredible wrestling merch, wrestling enthusiasts and all that stuff. And they cover a lot of the Warriors of Wrestling. Definitely check out that page on Instagram, Gen C Club. Those guys are great. And they endorse Warriors of Wrestling, and they cover them so well and precisely and so deep in detail. Give us a lot of clarity with Warriors of Wrestling, what they're doing. And they've just grown since I was doing the promotional work for Ali back in 2017. So definitely I recommend that promotion, definitely.
When I'm 50 now, when I was a young Papa Denk, I used to take acting. So, if you got a small part for me, I'm willing to travel.
That's definitely something we could talk about. Definitely. Absolutely. Set up an audition. That sounds good.
All right. Plug away anything you got coming up.
Yeah, so I gave the Vimeo stuff. So remember, one reminder, www.legacycomics.com to pre-order your digital or physical copies of the Ballad of Gene and Frankie comic book. And as I said, you have a default cover and you have a variant cover. The variant cover, of course, is the Valentin Quinones tribute cover based in reference to the Wolverine original cover, and as well as Northeastern Wrestling Alliance inspired as well, because it also reflects the NEWA Golden Dynasty debut of Gia Savitz. And also, if you want to see any Gia Savitz matches, me getting hit in the head by a woman with a cookie sheet, you go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/NGA Nomad. You can see Gia Savitz archive footage on there as well.
Awesome stuff. Hey, let me tell you, it's been a pleasure having you on. I seem to be getting a lot of awesome guests. And I'm not just saying that because of my show, but so far, everybody I've been meeting has been amazing. So thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for talking about the documentary. I enjoyed it. I mean, I watched it. So I enjoyed it. So I encourage everyone to go and purchase it so we can support the film, so we can get more wrestling films made.
Those films made, absolutely.
I want to see more wrestling films made.
That's we're in the works there, and when I come back here, we'll talk about that, and maybe we'll come back here and do we'll do a classic WWF face to face. We'll have me over there, and on the other side is going to be Raina Black. We're going to be tearing it up and promoting a match, intergender classic.
Maybe
Iron Person, 60 minutes. Raina, you and me, let's go.
Maybe you guys will fight over my own championship, the 23-6 title.
You give it. You bring it.
It's the most coveted title on all of YouTube, just so you know.
All right. That sounds good.
I've had some great champions there, let me tell you. Some good ones. Bryce Donovan was a champ who is part of the Shook crew, who Max Caster was a part of that group when he was in the Indies.
Oh, that's cool.
So I've had some good champions there.
That's cool. That's great.
Once again, thank you for coming on. Thank you to the fans watching the channel, make sure you support this film. It's very important. If you are a wrestling fan, you need to buy this film. That's all I'm gonna say. If you wanna get some hold on a sec. Love Raina. Papa Dank had her on the season premiere on Tuesday. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Raina, for having this great moment that I had tonight with Justin. Thank you, Raina.
You know, she had no idea that I saw it on her story.
You had no idea.
Thank you, Raina.
But facilitated this interview tonight.
Yes, thank you, Raina Hanna. Thank you.
Justin, thank you very much. Thank you to the audience. Any parting words before we end the show?
Yes. So just thank you for whoever's watching this. Thank you for supporting us. Any new people that don't know of us, please check this out. You want old school wrestling mixed with the new. You want to feel like you're at an indie show while watching a documentary. The Ballad of G and Frankie gives you that. And if you want something more in depth, more thorough, you love to read comic books, definitely get the Ballad of G and Frankie comic book on legacycomics.com. Pre-order is up right now. And we're getting ready to release that thing either later this month or in February. So you still have time to pre-order your copy right now.
Absolutely. Make sure that everybody is sharing all this information. It's very important we share so that people know about the documentary, about Justin, about Papa Dank. Please, let's keep wrestling alive and well. The heartbeat of wrestling is indie promotions. Thank you once again. And everybody have a great night. We will be back live on Sunday with Tatiana and Anthony Gangone, my buddy. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care.